Hello everybody, it is Elagatua. We've got another game for you today. After a couple months of waiting, it feels like, the Smacky Cup 6 has finally kicked off, and now we've got 3 tournament games going on at the same time, yet again, or at least 3 tournaments, maybe not 3 tournament games at the same time, but regardless, another Smacky Cup, and everybody's always interested in the first round because you've got a lot of players playing, and fortunately my round 1 kind of took a while, so I think most of the games are probably over or close to over by the time this video comes out, but nonetheless, this is going to be a very, very interesting video because this is a very, very interesting map. It is very non-traditional. There is a lot to talk about regarding this map, and the game also is actually very interesting, and I would say far more interesting than a lot of the previous round 1s that I've had in some of my previous tournament runs. So I look forward to that at the end, but we're going to spend a lot of time breaking down this map in detail because it's a non-traditional map, and there's just a lot going on here, and it's going to take a bit to go through it all. So let's not waste any more time. Let's start talking about this thing. And I think what we need to do to start is we just need to point out where all the bases are. So we've got a base here and a base here. And then the third base is all the way over here, kind of in the center. And you've got this kind of middle area that's kind of walled off by seas and rivers. And then you've got a mountain here. And then likewise on the other side. So the center area you basically can't get any vehicles into, and this base over here in the center is kind of isolated because in order to get there from this base you kind of have to either like go this way through a bunch of forests, or I guess you can kind of weave around here with the roads if you really want to, and then this base, I mean, you're just never able to get there no matter what. And then likewise on the other side you got bases over here as well. And interestingly enough about this map, you don't have an airport. And I think that combination of interesting base layout combined with the lack of an airport makes this really, really unusual compared to a normal map, because very frequently what you see in a normal fog map is you'll see that you've got your 2 kind of strong side bases like you've got here and here, but then on the weak side you're going to have your 1 base, but it's going to get complemented by an airport. And so if your weak side ever feels like it's getting snowed in too much or there's too much pressure, you're still really not likely to have any risk of having things get totally out of control, because you can always supplement your army and your unit count from that airport and be able to spend a lot of money on your weak side. And especially in the mid game, that's often a pretty optimal strategy to actually be kind of strong on the weak side. But that's not going to be happening here. So instead, what you have is something that maybe on its surface appears to be a mixed base setup. Now, if you're not familiar with mixed base, then you're lucky. It's a kind of a standard only concept, or I guess it probably exists in high funds as well. But the idea is that you have bases that are kind of intermingled between the players spread out throughout the map, and one of the main things that makes mixed base interesting is that you kind of have some options about which front to commit units from a given base, and so you can kind of make yourself very, very strong and kind of isolate certain bases of your opponents depending on the level of commitment that you send from your other bases. This is not actually a mixed base map, even though it kind of looks like it based on the layout. Instead, what we have going on here is what I would call a 2 versus 1. And this is actually a concept that I don't want to say that I came up with it. I don't think that's fair at all, but I've dabbled with this concept a while ago. It was a long time ago, actually. It's like one of the first maps that I ever, and maybe I guess the only map that I ever kind of finished. Finished as in like it. By the end, it looked like a fog map, and then I never play tested it ever. Um, but that the concept of that map, I'll link it in the description if you're interested in checking it out. You can maybe humor me and play test. I don't think anybody's ever played a game on it before, including me. But the concept of that map was very similar to what we see here in a lot of ways. And maybe this is actually probably much more refined than my initial attempt. But the concept is that you got this base, and then you got this second base here. But the second base kind of takes a little bit of time to come online because the infantry has to kind of hike all the way up here, and so it's not really pumping out units until day 5 or day 6 or so. But once it does get online, you have this enemy isolated base, and it's going to be heavily disadvantaged in the terms of the unit count that you're able to produce, because it's 2 units versus 1 unit, right? And so that's a huge deficit. Even if one of these bases is only pumping out infantry every turn, you only get the number of attacks based on the number of units you have alive. And so if you're getting 2 units that can attack against 1 unit that can attack, over time, odds are that the number of units from the 1 and the 2 versus 1 are going to get wiped out. So that's kind of the gist of it. And so let's imagine a scenario where, let's say, day 15 or so, there's some trading that happens, but ultimately, they trade 1 for 1, or maybe even a little bit worse than 1 for 1. But eventually, these 2 bases, they're just going to win out. It's just sheer force of numbers. You're gonna have more stuff. You're not gonna be able to withstand the amount of infantry that are coming in, and eventually, in theory, this base could like die, okay, and basically get capped. All right, and likewise on the other side as well. So then let's say that happens. So now the map becomes 3 bases here, here, and here, versus 3 bases here, here, and here. And once you're in that state, then what happens is this HQ then becomes very exposed, because you have this base and this base that are able to push extremely quickly to the HQ. And so once you've kind of resplit the map and kind of carved it in half, then you basically have an HQ race where it's very, very difficult to actually defend your own HQ, and the best way to win is generally by putting pressure on your opponent's HQ. And so if for some reason the map manages to play out in a stable way to the point where the bases get flipped, even then it's still not going to disintegrate or degenerate into stall wars, because you have a very heavy incentive to kind of send everything at the HQ and end the game that way. So fundamentally, this is a very unstable map. The one thing you can say about this map is that it's not going to stall. This is stalling is not a thing on this map. It's very, very volatile. There are going to be a ton of properties flipping, and it is utter chaos. There are a lot of different ways that things can play out, and there's a tremendous amount of knowledge checks, in my opinion, in terms of tactics, but especially in terms of strategy. Because if you don't understand that you're supposed to basically kill the weak side base, and that you're kind of racing to kill the weak side base first as a victory condition, and then once you flip that, then you're supposed to know that you're supposed to go after the HQ. If you don't understand all that stuff, then you're probably not going to play the strategy right that you need to do, and you're going to end up losing the race. So there's a lot involved in the strategy, in kind of understanding unit count and how it interweaves with kind of the income curve and all the various decisions that you're going to be making over the course of a game on this map. Okay, I think that serves as a decent introduction. Boy, where do we go next? All right. Let's see. Okay, so I think what we'll talk about next is kind of the concept of how this interplay between the one base and the two bases are going to work. We kind of need to go over this even in a little bit more detail before we start talking about like reinforcement paths and things like that. It's kind of an unorthodox breakdown, but it's for an unorthodox map. So from this weak side base, you've got a lot of properties that are very, very close or adjacent to one tank move from the base. So you can see like this property is within one tank move to at least hit a unit on this city. And then likewise, this property is also within one tank move to hit an infantry on the city. And beyond that, these two properties can chain, and these two properties can chain, and this property can kind of chain into this property. So this weak side base is extremely lucrative, and there are a ton of really, really important objectives that are available for this weak side base. And you've got the comm tower, which you need to secure as well. Okay, so bottom line, weak side base, very, very fast access to a lot of cities. There's a lot of things that this base is responsible for capturing, and there's a lot of very efficient captures from this base. Now, contrast that with what you see from this base. This is the base you're going to start out with, and on this side, look at all your properties. You got one here, one here, one here, and one here. These are your kind of starting safe captures. Look at how spread apart all these are. None of these chain together at all. And this one back here is like super out of the way. So you kind of want to delay that until later. So what's going to happen here is basically you're going to send your initial infantry like here and here. Right? Like that. Those are the two cities you generally start with. And then what? Right? Like they've got nothing to chain into. So what ends up happening is naturally these guys are going to want to go and start trying to disrupt the capture phase of the weak side base, because they can't really get any more income themselves. So the best thing that they can do is try to mess up these really efficient chains that your opponent is going to be trying to do from the weak side. So both players kind of have to be aware of this. And this city in particular is kind of like a contested is kind of the wrong word. This city is a trap. That's how I feel about this city. This one in particular is kind of a trap. And the challenge is like for the weak side player, often you're sending your first infantry to like this city, and then it captures by like day 3 or 4, and then comes over here by like day 5 or 6. And by day 5 or 6, at the same time, like the infantry from these cities are also going to basically be done and ready to be looking for a fight. So, so going to capture the city is potentially pretty dangerous. But at the same time, you've got this cruiser spy over here, and this cruiser spy is able to basically see any vehicles that reinforce this way from the strong side base. And so the strong side base, the fastest reinforced path to this front here, which is kind of the primary axis of conflict in the early game, you basically have to go through the spy vision. So you get kind of a one-turn heads up on what is going to be there. Or if you want to hide your deploys, you can elect to send it around this way, and then it's got to go through this forest, but it's going to be safe from the vision. But the reality is that if you go through the forest, surprise block rock. Okay, you go through the forest, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're losing a lot of movement, especially like in this area, because well, one move going this way is here, and then you can actually extend kind of a lot further. So that's kind of the vibe early on. And you kind of have to strike a balance, because you need to be able to defend your weak base. And it's actually very efficient to spend your income on your weak side base, because any vehicles that you're building from this weak side base very often are going to be able to get to the fight in one move, one vehicle move. And so that's like money that you're spending that is instantly turning into fighting power. And so that's really, really powerful. It's going to scale your army strength pretty substantially. So you want to be building vehicles from your weak side base. But at the same time, if you're building a lot of vehicles from your weak side base, especially early, then you're not building infantry. And there's so many things that you need to capture that you need infantry too. So ideally, what you want to have happen is you want to be able to kind of pump out as much infantry as possible from your weak side base, because the more infantry you pump out, the more options you're going to get for getting these properties more quickly. And then once you've captured those properties, then you start to have the income advantage that you can immediately transition into army fighting power, because you're building vehicles out of this base with the money that you've gotten from being efficient. And so you need to strike this balance where you want just enough fighting power from this base and just enough vehicles that you can avoid getting overrun by your opponent's aggression, and that you can kind of defend your capturing infantry efficiently enough, but not overcommitting with your income to this base. Because if you're overcommitting on vehicles there, then you don't build enough infantry, and if you don't build enough infantry, then you can't actually get the money. And if you can't get the money, then you don't have enough money to buy the vehicles from this very strongly positioned base that is very close to the fighting. So if you understand this dynamic really well, then what you understand about the implications of this dynamic is that there is a massive amount of rock, paper, scissors in this map. It is the single, I think this is the single most like the RPS is more relevant on this map than probably any other map I've ever played on. And when we get to the game, you will see why in detail. But the concept of why is basically, if you commit too much on defense to your weak side base, and your opponent doesn't actually spend, doesn't actually like attack to the extent, then you're kind of crippling your income curve. But also, if you commit too much on defense, then you're kind of letting your opponent build infantry from their weak side base as well, which is going to pump up their income curve. And so if you're ever kind of miscalibrated, then things get punished very, very, very hard. And additionally, the way that some of these engagements work out, like the spy, I mean, it helps a little bit, but the reality is that you're only seeing the unit, like you're only seeing it like one turn in advance. And so what ends up happening, especially in the early game, we're talking like days 6 through 8, is that you're kind of on a railroad, and the interactions between the first couple of vehicles are just going to play out based on how they're going to play out. It's just decisions colliding into each other, and they're kind of blind decisions, but nonetheless, those blind decisions have massive ramifications for the income curve that comes out of that. And then the income curve has massive implications for the amount of vehicles that you can have overall, and especially the type of vehicles that you can get from the weak side base, which has massive implications and ramifications for how long your weak side base is going to survive, which determines who's going to win the game. Okay, so things snowball very, very quickly, and you had this concept of like, okay, the base dies and then the HQ eventually dies, and in theory, that's how things are supposed to happen. In practice, it almost never makes it that far because the early game is so chaotic and shifts so wildly and meaningfully based on these early interactions that oftentimes the game is decided in the very first couple of interactions before you get to the point where the base dies, let alone the HQ dies. I think the number of games that I've seen where the HQ ends up getting captured is very, very small compared to the overall amount of games that are out there. And we do have, it's tier 4. We have Sammy, and in this game we've got Sammy, so like there are some Sammy shenanigans that have influenced some of the games, and we'll talk about one very specific instance of Sammy shenanigans in a little bit once we start talking about openers. But I think we needed to start with this kind of high level breakdown of kind of the character of games played on this map, because it is so different, and none of the other like details of like breaking down reinforcements and things like that really matter unless you kind of are seeing the big picture first. So I think that kind of covers the character of the very, very early stages of the game. Now, so I mean, we're still talking about like one base versus one base. Now, after you get to around day 7 or 8 or so, you're going to start seeing stuff from this base come online, and the infantry are going to start pouring out of here. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to end up taking over this city, and they're going to come over here, and their first responsibility is going to be able to get these 2 cities. So what can happen here is, depending on the vehicle allocation, like it kind of depends. Like, okay, your weak side player can kind of open anything. You're not going to know what they're opening, although you are going to have a pretty good idea of what they're opening, because whatever vehicles are getting made from the strong side, like often you're going to be able to see them with this cruiser. And if you don't see any vehicles, then there's probably vehicles being made from the weak side just by process of elimination. So you can kind of figure out what's going on even without knowing to some extent. But the challenge for the strong side players, they don't really know which direction things are going, and recons from the weak side are kind of good everywhere. Recons in here are very good for harassing infantry that are trying to cross like this no man's land here between the safe captures and then the cities that they want to contest. But also, recon reinforcement up through these shoals is very, very powerful as well. And really, this is often the third priority base. This is very often an infantry base for the majority of your turns, because you're not really getting to the point where you can build 2 vehicles a turn until like day 9 or 10 or so. And oftentimes, those vehicles are going to be spent on these 2 bases. So because of that, recon harass this way can actually be pretty effective, because oftentimes the vehicles are going to end up here and the infantry is going to be up here. And so this kind of makes it a very enticing target, and especially if you can deny captures of these cities, that's going to really slow down your opponent's income curve a lot, and it's going to force them to send vehicles potentially from like all the way up here to try and defend that, or build vehicles out of this base. But if you build vehicles out of this base, then you don't have the infantry. If you don't have the infantry, then you can't finish these captures, and so it gets very chaotic. So there's just a lot of different options available, and there's not really necessarily a right answer about what to do. You kind of just do the best with what you can based on how the rock paper scissors plays out in the early game. But by and large, even if you end up from the weak side harassing these properties, these are not contestable long term. Maybe you can kind of slow it down at the beginning, but the bottom line is that you're fighting over here beyond, like, you know, day 8 or 9, and maybe like beyond day 7 is overextending. Because what's going to happen, especially if you're trying to supplement this area with infantry, your infantry on your weak side are just super precious, and it's going to be a real struggle to sneak in any infantry after the first couple of turns. And so you really need like as many of them to survive as possible. So you don't really want to be sending infantry up here this area. So you slow it down, but this is going to get captured. And once these get captured, then what happens? You might sneak an infantry over here to take this, but then this is when the pressure starts ramping up on this base, because by like day 9 or 10 or so, you've kind of locked down these cities up here, and the infantry are ready now. And so these cities are kind of safe for the weak side base in the early game because they're kind of one tank move away from the base, but then the infantry flood starts happening. And then this is when the unit count starts to snowball like crazy, where you're putting pressure on these just by having more infantry available, and it creates this dilemma for the weak side base where you kind of want to deny these captures, but if you are slamming tanks into infantry, then your opponent's tanks are just going to come kill your tanks, and then once your tanks are dead, then so is your base. So it creates a very unstable dynamic, and these are generally the first cities that end up falling. And then depending on the state of the infantry down here, you're looking at like this one next. If things go badly, you can kind of leapfrog from here to potentially taking on this area here. All right. Most games tend to end when somebody's base basically just gets overrun and the other players gets overrun a little bit slower, or if they're able to stabilize with just like a lot of vehicles or a lot of tech from their income lead, if they're able to establish an income lead, that tends to be the end of the game. It's very rare for the bases to flip around the same time, just because of all the instability that we've talked about up to this point. But this game that I'm kind of letting us cycle through was actually a very rare instance of, we kind of skip ahead here. You see, so here, like day 19, like this is actually a pretty long time, but you can see that these bases are totally overrun. You can see the 2 bases have won on both sides, and actually they've won at about the same time. And so a mega tank comes out, so this is pretty crazy, but the mega tank is going to get blasted by like just a bajillion artillery. So you kind of see like the bases have effectively fallen, and all these properties are starting to flip, right? This game is becoming extremely wild. So finally, okay, so now this base has fallen, and the mega tank is getting blasted by 4 artillery every turn. It's just normal things going on here. And then victory march. So now this base flips, but at the same time, now this base is also flipped. So this is just like one of those, for whatever reason, just worked out in this game that both of the bases managed to flip at the same time. And so now this begins the HQ rush that we talked about, where now things are going to flip here. And so now all the pressure's on the HQ. And actually, blue manages to kind of hold off on the HQ. But the Neo tank, medium tank, just enough left over here for Sammy to end up getting the win. So this is like kind of I would say the glorious example of the map maker's concept being dragged into reality by the players. I want to say this is like one of maybe only two games that ended up going this far and kind of making it all the way to this point. But it's still kind of a cool game to check out. So we talked a lot about kind of theory. I don't even know if I really want to cover any more of the dynamics. I feel like you should. I don't even know what I can tell you that would be more helpful than what I've told you already. You can kind of just do whatever the heck you want on this map, and you just kind of do something, and it shakes out. And a lot of times, like, you're either really ahead or really behind, and then you just try to do the best with with where you're at after everything kind of slams into each other. And there's some like there's definitely like some wrong things that you can do, and if I see them in replays, I'll try to point them out. But a lot of it is just like kind of blind decisions slamming into each other, and then you deal with the fallout. So speaking of blind decisions slamming into each other, we do have to cover another game. I think I would be absolutely negligent if I didn't cover this one. Which if some of you have been kind of familiar with how the meta is shaken out on this map, you'll know where this is going. Okay, so this is another one. We got a Sammy versus a Jake, and in this map, well, it's not going to be a long game because there are shenanigans happening. There's a base skip here. You got a day 3 artillery. And uh-oh. This game is over. Okay. So this is a huge problem. There is a massive what's called TA or FTA, first turn advantage, because there is a HQ cheese route on this map, and it is ludicrously dangerous as Sammy if you're trying to exploit it. And it basically goes like this, because this is day 4 recon from the weak side. Like, this is pretty well equipped to handle any shenanigans, but this is not enough to deal with it, because this infantry is not close enough. Now this is a little bit of scuffed I think this is a little bit of a scuffed capture order by blue here, because I think you need to go to this city before you go to this city. And if you switch that, then actually day 4 recon can kind of save this, because you can pull this infantry off the cap to go here, and then this recon actually, like, you could potentially interrupt this. So a little bit unlucky, but regardless, the fact of the matter is that if you have a Sammy that goes this build, your viable openers to stop this are day 3 recon weak side and day 4 recon weak side. It's those two openers, or you die if your opponent decides to go for this cheese as Sammy. And obviously it works much better as player 1 than player 2. It is very, very broken. That being said, like, sometimes as like kind of map making people, map makers, you find issues with a map and you're like, oh no, like, this is actually a really difficult issue to fix. Like, there's some FTA issues where you really have to it kind of forces you to even rework some of the core concepts of the map in order to be able to fix that. This is not one of those situations. So we should not be looking at the existence of this cheese line and be coming back around and saying this map sucks. That's the wrong approach. Like, it's bad. It's bad that this line made it into the tournament without anybody really discovering it in the map testing phase. Like, that's not great. But the reality is that this is not like a core flaw of the map. You can just fix this by bumping the cruiser HP, and so it doesn't really affect like whether this map is like, at least this particular interaction does not affect whether this map is like a viable fog map. Okay, so but you need to know that this is a thing, because Daniel Moreno got cheesed out of the Smacky Cup because of this build, and it's pretty dirty. So be warned. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the COs in Tier 4. So this is Tier 4 with Jess banned. And Jess being banned makes a lot of sense because there's no airports. So having the extra vehicle damage is way, way too good when you don't have the downside of just like not getting movement on copters and the extra kind of bonus, the copter penalty damage for Jess. So Jess is way too good, so she's banned. So what you're left with is basically Jake and Sammy, and then a smattering of Adder. And we've seen, kind of a decent mix. I would say probably the majority of players have gone for Jake, and I think that is a largely correct. Sammy is viable, but I kind of think that if you're winning with Sammy, you're kind of skill gapping your opponent. But it's still, I mean, you can do it. I just don't think that this map plays well to Sammy's strengths. You can't really use transports on this map because Sammy really wants to use T-copters. It buffs her unit count. You use them as blockers. It gets you access to captures more quickly and things like that you can use to build a lead that way, and then utilize your mechs. The problem with Sammy on this map is that you're kind of playing for Victory March, because you can't build a unit count lead by spamming transports and air units. So you're still building a lot of vehicles as Sammy. And mechs are just kind of bad on this map. And to understand, like, you might think that, the reinforcement distances are so close that mechs might be good, and you look at this river and like, wow, maybe mechs can be a thing. No, they're terrible. Here's the reason why. Think about it. If you build mechs from this base, sorry for these pauses, by the way. I'm almost through with this cold, but I'm not quite there, and I'm trying not to cough too much. So if you build mechs from this base, then it's still going to take like 1, 2, 3 moves. And really, this area here, this is where the fighting happens. Like, you might think it happens here, but generally not. It happens where these two bases intersect. Getting mechs to here takes forever. Doesn't matter which base you build them from. Yeah, it's going to take a long time. Way more moves than it's going to take vehicles to go. And if you build transports as Sammy, then you're even further behind because you don't have that time where normally you build transports, then you get to captures more quickly. Then that gets you more income, which then you can kind of use to compensate for what you spent on the transport. You don't have that here because the fighting starts on like day 5 and 6. So if you build an APC, one, that's not an infantry. So you're hurting yourself in terms of unit count. But also, you're immediately putting yourself massively behind in the amount of either defending or attacking that you can do. And your mechs are already like really immobile to begin with. So like in order to build up that snowball, like it's going to take some time, and then you just need the flexibility to be able to maneuver very freely on this map. So if you're playing Sammy, you're not really playing her to be able to use mechs necessarily. You're playing her for her kind of the capture bonuses, the defense, or not the defense, but the resilience to getting harassed. And then you're playing it for the victory march. And the concept is that as Sammy, you're basically just trying to survive until you get victory march up without getting like totally crushed. And then you just rely on the natural dynamics of the map to be able to do the base kill more quickly when you get the victory march up, or maybe like flip the comm tower, quickly with that, or flip like a lot of contested properties really quickly with the victory march. Like you get to victory march and you have to hope that you're not dead before that happens. But I fear that as Jake played correctly on this map is just going to run circles around any Sammy, because there's just so many fronts that you have to worry about engagements on. And so recons are very, very strong, and you're doing a lot of tank fighting. And artillery, they have their place, They're very good for being the unit that kind of does the coup de grace on the weak side base. But there's a lot of just tank and recon fighting. And the bottom line is that if you can't match the fighting power of the tanks, then it's just really hard to win. So I know a number of players have done Sammy and made it work, but I don't really think that Sammy is the best choice, in my opinion. I think people have made it work because they're just playing better or things have worked out better for them in that game. But you can kind of see here, if we kind of skip ahead, eventually this reaches a point now where kind of Jake got enough tanks here and kind of won this tank fight on the weak side and kind of managed to snowball stuff over here. And just by not dying on the weak side, Jake has kind of managed to win here. And I mean, Sammy got really, really crazy over aggressive. Like these properties do not belong to Sammy. Like, and now this has cost Sammy a lot of unit count trying to capture these cities that don't belong to her. And you can kind of see that Sammy does get. So Sammy does here get the nice victory march off. Gets a decent amount of cities. This is a really weird game, because this Sammy is just not able to pressure this weak side base at all. And actually, so finally now you can see that the numbers from the two bases are finally no. The unit count is just not sufficient to hold here, and so this is going to end the game pretty quickly. But this is kind of the thing that I would expect to see a lot in a Jake versus Sammy match. All right. I think with that, it is time to move on to the main event. This one is going to be pretty spicy, so buckle up and let's get ready to get into this one. Today, my opponent is going to be Robofish500. I don't know too much about this player, but that's pretty common for the first round of the Smacky Cup, because you can kind of get matched up with like anybody. There's like 200 people that... or maybe not quite 200, but there's a lot of people in these tournaments, and so there's there's only a pretty small number of like really, really elite fog players, and so you're gonna get people that you're unfamiliar with most of the time, unless you get terrorized by like Jackley Man or Laska Larnar, or these players that are just like insanely good but don't have super high fog ELO on the ladder and just exist to ruin the day of any seeded player that happens to land in their brackets. Well, we'll get to that when we get to that. But I'm not going to be immune to that. Let's take a look at what I'm doing here. So, my initial build for this game is I wanted to open day 3 recon from this weak side base, and basically what I realized is that if my opponent sends this first infantry to this city instead of this city, day 3 recon basically gets a free hit on this infantry. It'll still capture the city, but the recon can basically go here, get a free hit on this city, and it will see the base, which is crazy. And it's planes, by the way, so Jake bonus damage with the recon. So it's gonna basically chip the infantry, which is gonna cost like 1k, which is gonna mess with their income curve. But it's actually going day 3 recon is early enough that there can't actually be a tank out to counter that. So like it's guaranteed damage. It's guaranteed damage, and you see the base, and once you see the base, you basically know what is being built, because if there's no vehicle here, then there's definitely a vehicle here. So like you just have total free range to do whatever you want to do. So that is my plan. And then I move this guy down because I forget why. I think I wanted to see. All right, there's some like nuances here. if you're going to go capture this first, the correct way to capture this city with your starting infantry here is to go here onto this tile and then go up. But if you go this way, which a lot of people do because they're not paying attention, then you end up in the cruiser range, and so you can actually see, and then you know what their capture route is. And that doesn't always matter, but if you can avoid giving free information to your opponent, you should avoid giving free information to your opponent. So anyway, it doesn't really make a difference either way, but there's no disadvantage to putting it here. So we see that. What? You see that wiggle? So this is the very, very rare instance. I don't think I've ever seen I have seen this once before, actually, in a situation that was far more egregious than this. But this is a day one mistake. A genuine day one mistake. My opponent hits the pipe seam. Which reveals that this infantry went this way. If it hadn't hit the pipe seam, I wouldn't have known if the infantry could be going here and then going this way. Or it could be going here. I wouldn't have any way to know. But since they hit the pipe seam, I know 100% that it's going this way. And so I actually don't like that information, because my plan was to go harass this city with the day 3 recon, but now there is a possibility, actually, if my opponent is really, really savvy, where they could capture this city and then actually retreat this infantry back into the woods. If they do that, then my day 3 recon is totally wasted. So now I'm like, I don't love this. So we got some time. So you see, I'm going here. I want to get this city first. And we're just doing things, and we see the infantry move up here. And presumably it's going to go here, even though it should have probably gone here to hide that information, although I think at this point the capture order is pretty well revealed either way. So I said, I'm not gonna do the day 3 recon. We're just gonna wait and see. We see this infantry go up here, so that's, I mean, it's not really particularly useful information, but already I'm kind of presented with a dilemma here. And I guess I spoiled a little bit by showing this artillery buy, but I'll tell you what I'm thinking. So, because I know the capture order, there's kind of two things that are possible. So one is this infantry goes back and retreats, and that would be kind of respecting the day 3 recon possibility from the weak side. The other possibility is that this infantry is going to go up here to basically try and counter this infantry that would be, potentially taking this city. And so there's just no way to know for sure what is going to happen. This is, when I talk about like kind of rock, paper, scissors, like this is the very, very first instance of it. There's no way to know which direction this infantry is going to go. There are valid reasons for sending it in both directions. It's just kind of up to what they choose. Or even crazier is this infantry could be used to try and cheese this comm tower. You basically try to sneak the comm tower too. So I'm thinking about that as well. And there's just kind of no way to know whether that's going to happen. But I'm thinking, okay, I got this artillery, and what I can do is I can go attack, right? I can go put him on the city here, and then this tile here is 1 turn artillery range. And so if he goes on the city, even if he gets interrupted, then I'm basically getting an infantry for free in the counterattack from the artillery, and I can maybe use this to kind of extract a pound of flesh for the assault that comes if he chooses to contest this property. That is the thinking, at least. We see him come in. We see this infantry go down here. So now we know. And by this, seeing this infantry here is also a mistake. This infantry should be going here. And because my cruiser is here, because I moved it down, I see it. So now I know already that there's no day 3 recon. But I shouldn't have been able to know that. Okay? Because for all I know, there could have been a day 3 recon that went this way. I wouldn't have been able to eliminate that possibility otherwise. I see that, so I'm like, okay. Well, it seems pretty passive. This looks to me like either there's going to be early recon from this base, or potentially just like a day 5 tank, like this tank opener, which is fine, cool. And artillery is really good against tank openers because the artillery can kind of sit way back here, and it's 2 turns away from this base, and then it's also covered by tanks. So it's artillery can be very, very good against those tank openers. And if there's any vehicles over here as well, then that's also fine. Then we just kind of handshake, and we just start our capture chains, and we end up with a very passive opener, where we just kind of agree to kind of develop into the mid game on equal footing, and I'm happy to play that too. Okay, moving along. I go for the greedy cap, and now I see that this infantry is in position. So this is, I would say, a rare opener mistake by me. I think this was just a poor decision. I think what I should have done is I should have sent... If I wanted to be really cheeky, I could have put him in the forest. But I think the correct move is actually to send him to this city instead. Because this city is reachable in one move from a recon built from this base. And so if this guy decides to contest this city, then the infantry is basically suiciding itself for nothing. And additionally, this city here is now also being set up to get smacked from 2 infantry on the same turn. And so even if I bring the artillery here, which I'm going to do, you can see how I'm avoiding the cruiser vision here. Yeah, so what I need to do is this guy needs to go here, and then this needs to be a recon instead. So what I ended up doing, I saved money this turn. So you can see I got 3k left over. So one of these infantry could have been turned into a recon if I wanted it to be. But by going here, now I don't really want to build a recon here because the recon doesn't help. The recon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like it can't help this guy. This guy's kind of out on his own, and the artillery kind of has to defend. But if I go here, then the recon can help, and it will punish this early aggression. But so that was kind of an error on my part. But at the same time, like, you're blindly deciding all of this based on the assumption that he's going to attack instead of play more defensively and respect the possibility of an attack on the weak side. So it's I would say it's like kind of a moderate mistake on my part, but it's also heavily influenced by RPS and still somewhat defensible. And I'm taking kind of a more aggressive line, thinking that, okay, we haven't seen anything yet. This is we've gotten a lot of information that we shouldn't have about the capture order. This seems a lot like a tank opener, because you see that a lot from players that you haven't heard of. Like tank openers are very common from I don't know. It's common from like kind of the more intermediate players. So anyway, that was the thinking. But yeah, let's see how this goes. So we see a recon now. Is a day 4 recon from the strong side, and that is like the absolute worst case scenario that could possibly happen. It's absolute nightmare fuel, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This recon is now here and sees the artillery. So that's horrendous. And now we are committed to this. Like, there's no calculation involved in the interaction that's going to happen in these next 2 turns. Like, everything from this point is just on railroad tracks, based on the decisions that have the blind decisions that have led us up to this point. Everything is 100% automatic for like the next 2 turns. So I'll show you what happens here. So these 2 guys come in, and then I'm gonna get to trade, take out one of the infantry. I retreat this guy. And then I retreat this guy here. And so now what's going to happen is, I know next turn, this guy is going to go kill this guy, and then the recon is going to come in and attack my artillery. But that's okay, because at least I was wise and I saved up the money. So now I can actually afford a tank of my own, and the artillery is far enough back that I can basically counter with this tank. But the whole interaction is catastrophically bad for me overall, because one, I had to open 2 vehicles from the weak side, which means I've got less infantry. I got one of my captures interrupted here. Now I did manage to kill an infantry, so like we're up on unit count, so that part is good. But the problem here is that I have no vision, and when this recon comes in and hits the artillery, I need the recon to die. And the only way that I can get the recon to die is I need to basically use the tank and the infantry together. So the recon's going to be here, right? So tank comes in here, and then infantry is going to come down here and hit the recon. But I need vision of the recon, and I have to move my artillery first. And if this guy goes in the forest, like nothing, the second I move this artillery away, I can't see the recon anymore. So that's really bad. So I need these 2 guys to both attack, but the only way I can actually end up seeing the recon in order to do all this is I have to pull this guy down here to see the recon so that I can trade to the recon. And instead, I would much rather have him get this property, because this property is on a timer. By like day 8, like all this stuff is going to get captured, and then this stuff is going to, the infantry to come down here. I'm never going to be able to claim this property again. It's going to be gone forever. So not only it's not a great trade in terms of unit count, I'm getting my artillery popped to like half health. I mean, I'll likely kill the recon. It's a roll, by the way. It's like an 85 or 90% roll. Is very favorable, but like it's a roll to kill the recon. So like if the recon is with 1 HP, that's catastrophic as well. But Mining gets disrupted, and these very lucrative chains on the weak side are just getting totally messed up. When the heck am I ever going to get my comm tower? And even worse, I've had to invest all of my income into really expensive vehicle units to counter a single recon, and I have no ability to exert any pressure on any of this stuff at all, and my opponent knows it because I'm going to be showing all my vehicles immediately. So my opponent should know that there's no extra money on the map to have anything. And so my opponent can just go to town and capture all this stuff for free. And yet I'm getting totally disrupted in my capture phase by like a recon. So it's... And all of this is like... All of this was determined last turn. Like, the second that recon showed up here, everything was like... It just like... It's like standard, basically. It's like okay, here's the way the next... These 3 turns are going to play out because it's all predetermined. Anyway, total nightmare fuel. Anyway, we see that. Recon comes in. Wins the roll. Nice. I think it's like a 30. I forget what the chip was. It was not an amazing thing to see. Now we continue to get free information because my opponent's putting infantry on this lab for some reason, even though they're moving off. So it doesn't really matter, but it's like I shouldn't be getting this. And this infantry, so I see this infantry, which means I know that there's not another vehicle coming. It means I can be pretty sure that there's like a vehicle up here, right? Just because like where's the money going? So probably a tank up here. And so now I know, like, I mean, I can't really attack. Like, if there's a tank up here and I've got nothing, I kind of need to play defensive up here and can't really contest anything. So it's just really bad. I have to do this. So mercifully, we do get the roll here. So the recon does die. And, you know, this is like slightly favorable for me. Like I'm up maybe like 2k in like total damage, but in terms of income, it is total nightmare. And again, like, what am I going to do about this comm tower? Like, I need to get this comm tower, and and all the while my opponent is just scaling. Like, my opponent probably has this city because I can't contest that. They're going to get both of these cities. And both of these cities, I'm going to be down like 2k at least, just like by day 8 or 9, just based on this interaction. Let alone like, you know, what happens if my opponent decides to pressure these cities? Like, what have I got against that? It's a mess. And the challenge with this map, once we know we're going to be down like 2 or 3k, like really, really early on, just by these series of interactions, is that we're at like 12k now. What if you're 3k behind? The difference between 12k and 15k is absolutely massive because it's the difference between 2 tanks, which is a tank on the strong side and a tank on the weak side, versus like, you know, a tank recon. It's like absolutely massive difference in fighting potential really, really early on. And as you mentioned before, any vehicles built on this weak side, they're contributing to the fight almost immediately because they're super fast reinforced to a lot of really lucrative properties. So this thing can snowball really, really fast if things do not exit this capture phase in a stable way. And this is really, really unstable for me. It is. This is, if you remember the game that I played against MWB, Smacky Cup 4, round 5, that was another game where I basically just got absolutely massacred in the rock, paper, scissors aspect of the game. But ultimately, I was able to kind of pull it back through kind of, I think there was one pretty bad misplay that my opponent made that I was able to kind of pounce on and then snowball into a winning position surprisingly quickly. In my opinion, the position that I'm in right now on day 7 of this map is way, way worse due to the nature of this map. And in my opinion, like, this is a losing game. This is a losing game, like against like any elite level player. Like, this is, it's not like, you know, we're designing yet, but like This is for sure a lost game. Like it's very easy to see what happens now. It's like, okay, well, I need to try and recover this side now, but I'll never get this city anymore. Like these guys are too far out of the way. Like the best I can hope for is like maybe getting this city, or maybe I can like kind of threaten down this way and like use the tank as a blocker or something like that. But then like what happens if he comes down here and then starts harassing these captures? Then I'm just going to end up even more behind, because like I sure can't contest anything up here. Like that's never happening. So if he denies these and then also gets these, then well, 2 or 3K becomes 4 or 5K, and things are getting really ugly really fast, and all of a sudden you have medium tanks pouring out of this weak side base, and just what do you do? You can have a lot of strategy, but at some point, if you have way more stuff, strategy doesn't matter so much. But anyway, we play on. Try to do our best out of a bad situation. Now we got a recon here, and we need to get a tank here because we're anticipating, like we know this infantry showed up. So we got some free information there, which means there's almost certainly a vehicle or two on this side. And so we need to anticipate that we're going to get hit here. So I know this is like a lot of jumps ahead, but you need to know, like, okay, we're strong here, like we're really strong here. Like we just killed the recon. There's no more vehicles, so therefore our opponent must be strong here. And the natural place, like the weak side base can't go here. So if you're strong here, where do you go? You go here. Okay, well we need to be ready to be strong here in like a turn or two, because that's when those captures are going to start happening. That's why the tank goes here and the recon goes here. We see another recon. And then the infantry retreats. That's fine. So we know that the infantry, retreated here, so it's probably on this tile. We kind of have two choices here. One is we kind of collapse everything onto here. We try to punish him. If he tries to contest these properties, we try to punish that. The other one is we basically try to just bully on this side, get this city, and then we just try to, like, this infantry is dead to our tank if we want it to be. Like, it's out of range of this base. Nothing can hurt us here. We saw the recon show up. So these are kind of our options. It's like, how strong do we want this side to be? But like this property is totally lost. Like we're never going to get that. So I'm just going to take the free infantry and try to, what I want to do is I want to try and like make him build tanks out of this base, because really I have a lot of infantry here. And so what I want to happen, I also pulled this guy back because I know that there's potential for like recons and tanks to be in this area, and everybody knows that all my stuff has been allocated down here. So like this guy is just like, leaving him on the city is just potential. The only bad things can happen basically by leaving him there. So I'm just going to pull him back for now. But we're building up a lot of infantry, and the hope is like, okay, he comes down here, maybe overplays his hand a little bit, and then we just have like a lot of infantry numbers, and we just collapse on this really, really hard. And even if we're down in income a little bit, if we can just like get all this fast enough, then we have a chance. It's kind of like we're just you kind of collapse this really quickly, you go all in on the base, and you just hope you have enough. Now we're just kind of lining up an infantry wall here. Ooh. Don't love that. Now, not only am I down, so I'm down. So my opponent's going to get this property. So this is 1k that I'm behind. I assume he's got this property, it's 2k. Now I'm down 3k from this property. And like, when am I ever going to get this one? And my opponent's probably going to get this one as well. Maybe not this turn, but maybe soon. So like we're in the vicinity of being 4k down. 4k down by day 8. Like, that is how crazy this opener RPS is played out. That is a staggering differential in income for day 8 of a fog map. It's outrageous. But I've got a plan. And the plan is, there are vehicles unaccounted for here. If I were him, and I've got this finishing the capture, and I see this guy come in, what am I going to do? I'm going to send my tank down on this silo tile to hit this infantry. And so I want to be ready for that. And this artillery can't accomplish anything meaningful over here anyway. So I'm basically just setting up to punish that exact situation. And there's no way that this artillery is totally safe back here. He's not going to get attacked by anything. So, so even if nothing happens, then he's going to basically be shifted over here to support what is going to be a big all-in push on this base with all this infantry that I've built up. I move this guy down here because I'm threatening, like, okay, if you don't build a tank here, I'm gonna bring this guy onto the city, and then I'm gonna put my tank like in this forest or something like that, and maybe try to steal a city that way. Because I'm just like, I know I am so far behind in income, and now it's like 2 tanks per turn for my opponent, and I'm still stuck at 13k. It's like 13k, which is tank recon infantry turn. So 2 tanks versus 1 tank until I can solve this. Looking really bad. Even if, you know, okay, I'm up 2,000 in army damage, but I'm down 4k every turn. It's so terrible. And sure enough, tank comes in. So I at least set the trap, and then I lose the infantry. And I'm like, how the heck is there another infantry down here? There's so much infantry in this area. And I don't have the comm tower. So, like, I mean, even still with, like, the 5 HP artillery, not having the comm tower means, like, I'm certainly not killing the tank. I think I can bring it down to, like, 3. But at least it is, like, damage that is going to be pretty favorable. And I need to be... Boy, like, I need to be winning in something, because I'm basically losing everything now. And he brings the recon in to harass this. Has a tank here, which is good. I like to see the tank here. That's nice. And then another recon shows up here. So this is brutal too, because this is going to chip me down 1k. And then I lose the infantry there. Okay. Not ideal, but this at least is an expensive turn for my opponent. I'm going to be able to kill this recon, and I'm going to be able to kill this infantry. And the nice thing about that is that once I do that, like, this tank is pretty safe. Like, and I'm getting a lot of damage on this tank too. So, like, let's just kind of see how this plays out, and you'll see what I mean. So that one shot's because it had chip damage on it, and I'm on the plains. So even without the comm tower, that combination is able to one-shot the recon, which is really nice. And then that allows me... Oh, jumping ahead. That allows me to now clear off this infantry. Now this infantry is dead. Now nothing can see the tank. So even though there's a tank here on this city, it doesn't matter. I mean, he could build a recon from this base to see the tank if he wanted, but setting up potentially like a bad tank chain here. So I'm kind of getting a recon and infantry for an infantry. So that's 4k in my advantage. So that's good. That kind of cancels out the massive income disparity that is I need one of those every turn, basically, in order to keep things stable. And then I get a 9-3 on this tank, so that's also favorable. But the problem now is that I'm trading infantry into his infantry. Well, I mean, that is good. That we want to be doing that. Like, you want to be trading infantry into infantry on the 2-base side, because once these infantry are gone on the weak side, then it's curtains for the weak side base. But fighting infantry and infantry is also chipping my infantry, which is preventing me from capturing these tiles for these cities, and I have no ability to exert any pressure up here. So, like, the longer these get delayed, like, there comes a point, like, the income gets converted into army so quickly that there comes a point where you can be losing a lot of your army, but if you have a truly massive income lead, you can kind of afford to. And not only that, but losing a lot of army value charges up your meter faster. And so if my opponent gets the first superpower, then, well, that's even worse. It's insult to injury. So it's so bad. It is so bad. But anyway, so I'm like desperately shifting infantry down here because I need to get these cities first, and then hopefully like this city, and then just like if I can maybe survive like 2 or 3 turns, like. I've been killing a lot more stuff. Like the damage is looking pretty good. I'm up like you're like almost 9k more damage done. But if you look at the income, it's basically matched by the income advantage that my opponent has had over the course of the game. So it feels like my army is like doing amazing. I'm killing so much stuff, but it's fool's gold. I'm not actually ahead in terms of overall army value. I'm not actually ahead. Unit count looking all right. Unit count's looking good, like 5-3, and the tank being low, like that's good. But it's super bad. And I was so relieved to see this. So he didn't take the city. He went with this route. So you got these two. This city is still available to me. So now I can at least interrupt this. And this is like, okay, infantry for infantry trades, this is what we want. And then we're going to put the tank here because I'm not really sure what my opponent is going to do. There's a possibility that this tank could get attacked by the tank here. And if that's the case, then I kind of need this tank to support and chain and create like a favorable trade. But really what I want is I want everything to just, we are going all in here. So by putting it here, I'm covering both of these tanks, you see? I'm covering this guy and this guy. And then I can make the decision next turn depending on what my opponent does. But we're still on 13k. It's still tank recon infantry. It's so painful. It's so bad. So you see a tank come in, clear that guy off. All this stuff retreats. Which, to some extent, is the correct play. Okay, and we see the tank move in here. So that's good. So we see no engagement on this side. So we basically completed the trade. We see another tank. So these two tanks are kind of together. Okay. This is now kind of the critical turn. I've been so far down in income, but in terms of, my opponent was not really able to counterattack last turn. So I did open up a pretty big damage lead on the units that are out there, but still overall, like, his army is at worst equal to mine, just based on the amount of extra money that's available. And the only way I win this game is by finding a way to flip properties to equalize this income. And the only place on the map that I'm ever going to be strong enough to flip any properties is going to be here. I can never contest this. I have 2 infantry. 2 infantry. I'm never fighting up there. It's never going to happen. So what we need to do is we need to isolate these 2 tanks over here. And we've cleaned up like all the infantry. So the immediate infantry pressure in this direction is kind of null. The pressure is going to come from down here, from all these infantry that are capturing these cities. And I need to try and prepare for that and just try to like slow it down. But everything's got to go this way, because if we're not strong enough to actually win the fight over here and actually secure these properties, we are just going to drown in our opponent's insane economy. We do get the comm tower, and then we whiff the roll. And so the previous turn, I had a plains infantry attack. So I forget exactly what the roll is, but I think it's around 70. So that was really unlucky. And I kind of got tilted a little bit. I was like, we ball. Because we don't have the luxury of playing safe anymore. Like our position in the game is just so bad. But my opponent did overextend these infantry, and we are going to get to clean up a bunch of infantry this turn. And once the weak side infantry are dead, this starts to become really, really vulnerable. We're going to go in here. And I forgot. I didn't even capture this city because I was trying to really aggressively like push here. So like to further add to the income woes, like my opponent certainly has this city already. So like we're like down 6k, right? Like, so it's like this is 3k. And then 4k. I don't know if there's a 5k. Oh, 5k here. So yeah, like we should expect to be down 5k this turn. Yikes. And when is that going to change exactly, by the way? Because this guy's at 8 HP. This ain't getting captured. This ain't getting captured this turn. Like, it's going to be 5k or maybe 4k for at least the next 2 turns as well. And like, that's a lot when you have 1 turn reinforce. So we do not have the luxury of playing safe anymore. We go. We ride. We are just gonna try our absolute hardest to abuse the unit count on this weak side. And we're just gonna send everything and hope it's enough. But the reality is that I know we're down 5k roughly. I have 13k income. 5k plus, you add 5k to 13k, you get 18k. What can you buy with 18k? Medium tank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My opponent built a medium tank last turn from that base, anticipating that I would go in with this tank and finish off this guy to punish it. It's just game. It is just over, because if there's a medium tank shows up here and kills this guy, this push is dead. There's even with bad unit count, like my opponent doesn't need to like win. He just needs to stabilize like these properties, basically. Like this stuff's gonna be lost no matter what. Stabilize this, and then infantry come pouring down here. I can't do anything. The end. Game over. Totally done. But I don't have the luxury of playing it safe. I just have to hope that this tsunami of units is enough, and that I can punish his overextension just by having more stuff. But yeah, like if there's a medium tank here, I'm totally cooked. And honestly, like I do have like a little bit of a backup plan. Like if there was a tank this turn, then the tank comes here. You know, these guys come down here to finish this guy off. But it's like at this point, and I'm gonna end up going in here. And finishing off this infantry. Basically, just I'm hoping that you are really low on units on this side, and that I'm just going to have too much stuff, and I can't afford to play safe anymore. Really important this turn. This is a really important deploy turn for me. Double artillery infantry. We are all in. We need artillery. Because we know, like, the second this base is in trouble, we're going to be dealing with tech. We can't match the tech. We don't have enough money. We're super poor. So we need to have a lot of artillery, and we just wall. Like, the one thing for sure we have a lot of infantry. Like, we just killed a ton of infantry. We have way more infantry. If there's tech and we have artillery, and then we've got infantry in front of the artillery, the tech is going to be really inefficient. So that's kind of our hope. But we need to set up for this turn, because we need the artillery in position when we're actually, like, starting to enter into this area. Like, the unit count wise, like 9-4, really good. But if our push stalls out here, the game's in. It's just done. We're not going to try and capture the city, because the 2 tanks here, we know we're never going to be strong here. Send it all. Send it all. We're going to lose all this. Just try and lose it as slowly as possible and find some way to, like, get this. And if we can get this fast enough, maybe we can, like, stabilize and then outplay. That's all. That's the only thing we can do. We see an artillery come this way. That's good to see. We love seeing stuff over here, because if the armies are split and we're sending everything up here, then maybe we can actually have enough, despite being down so much money. It comes in here, really low roll, by the way. It makes me kind of wonder if he hasn't taken his comm tower, because I don't know how that didn't go down to 3. And we see an artillery come in. Oh, it's so lucky for us. There's an artillery there. And even worse, this is... Okay. So, I don't want to say this. I don't want to be, like, overly critical of my opponents, because it's like, it's not fun. Like, you know, I've got a pretty decent size audience, and I don't want people to be, like, reluctant to want to be, like, in these games or be featured in these videos, and, like, be, like, you know, really critical, or be, man, this guy's so bad, or, like, what a terrible decision, or like, you know, I really try to avoid that. But this turn was catastrophically catastrophic for my opponent. And you're about to see why. This was the artillery being the thing that got deployed here instead of a medium tank. That's unlucky. Everything else that happened after that was, the strategy here is not coherent, and it's all right. I was gonna say what I think. Okay, it's so wrong that it is able to undo so much of the good that has gone well for my opponent this entire game, which is, like, what is the income differential at right now? Yeah, that. It's, you know, like almost 18K of income difference by, like, day 11. It's insane. So, like, even despite being 10K up in, like, army damage, my opponent still has, like, 8K more in army value on the field, just pure due to the income differential. So let's talk about why. I feel bad about talking about it like this way. Let's talk about why this move was so bad. This front is super unit count constrained. This front is the survival front. All you need to do here on this front is not die. Or even if you die, just die a little bit more slowly than the other side dies. That's all you've got to do. And you've got all the money in the world. You can do anything. You turtle up here if you have to. But you gotta keep your units alive because you're gonna get snowed in. Watch what happens. Recon dies for this. Recon had absolutely no business staying around. Recon chipped this infantry down to 4 HP and then dies. Now this front has no vision. No vision. How are you going to get more vision here? You can't build a recon here. You need tech from here because there's way too many units. Now the recon's dead. Now, even worse, this artillery is way too exposed and he's blocking this forest tile. Gets popped there. The damage itself is not that significant. This is what's significant. Okay. Well, let's talk about this turn before we here. Let's stay here. This is what's significant. Look at the unit count. Look at all this damaged junk that I've got. I've got 5 HP artillery, 9 HP infantry, 4 HP tank, 4 HP infantry. I've got chipped units all over the place. Like this is, we're just absolute tatters. But we've walled off this tile. And so now this artillery is a total liability. It can't hit any tanks. He can hit the infantry here, but if he does, then that means he's blocking access to this tank. And so if you build like a tank from here, you can't actually hit my tank because the artillery's in the way. But then what do? Okay, well, you want to interrupt this cap? Well, then you got to either commit the artillery to attack it, or you're going to send the tank down. If you send the tank down, then you're putting it in artillery range. And then these tanks are going to finish it off, and then the tank's going to die. The infantry's still not going to die, and you've lost a tank for nothing. And then you're still not hitting this tank. So... And then you lost the recon, too. So it's just like, everything is like... It's super catastrophic. That being said, I'm still down like 6k, because now like my opponent's got this city. I think. Yep, this city's gone. So I think maybe I pulled it back to 5k because I got this city. But I mean, I'm still like just absolutely snowed in. But unit count wise, there's 3 units versus a lot more than 3 units. You do the math, and I am bunkered up here. I know like I can't poke out of here. I just have to try and ride that out. I'm gonna lose all this stuff. It's fine. As long as I lose this as slow as I gain this game stabilizes. And if it stabilizes, then maybe well, if it's stabilizing sounds really, really good when you've been down 5k for like 4 turns, okay? So that infantry comes in. Medium tank shows up. That's not super surprising, but you see, like the artillery had to move out, and then the artillery had to move again. So that's not what you want from your artillery. Now we got a medium tank, but that's fine. Because we've got crappy infantry. All hail the crappy infantry. They are going to work wonders for us. Now, finally, we are ready to take this game by the throat. First of all, we flip a city! We flip another city! Oh, it feels so good. It feels so good. Now we can build 2 tanks a turn. By day 12. Oh, the suffering. We can start capping stuff. And now This is where the unit count is going to start to snowball. My opponent lost all this infantry here, so now the push coming in this direction is really slow, but I'm already pushing these. I don't need to flip all these. Even flipping 1 or 2 is actually going to equalize the income as long as I don't lose this stuff too slowly. So we're just going to delay this cap for a turn, see what we see, which is not a whole lot. So for some reason, our opponent is playing really, really far back here. Our opponent should be like way more aggressive than this. Like we have, I guess my opponent does not know that I've actually shifted everything over here. My opponent is respecting the fact that like I have a bunch of tanks over here. No, they're all gone. They all left. And now my opponent's going to see them. Because they are going to be saying hello. This is what happens. You get crazy unit count. You can start seeing the base. So you see medium tanks being chained. Well, that's going to be a problem. But the problem is for the medium tanks. Because the medium tanks only can see one square. And I'm Jake. I have a comm tower and I have planes. And now the tank is dead. And none of this can see anything. One vision. One vision. One vision. It's fog. Boink. Now what do? Hug of death. And the artillery are finally in position. I don't care that this artillery is in range of this artillery. Doesn't matter. It is impossible for this artillery to ever see this artillery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even if next turn he deploys a recon here, it's going to be out of range. And not only that, but this tank's probably going to die. But what do you do with this medium tank? You hit the infantry? You can't get to this tank. You can't get to him. Because even if this artillery shoots the 1 HP infantry, this medium tank doesn't have enough vision to see the tank that's 2 squares away. So it doesn't matter. So basically, yeah, you got an insane amount of money concentrated over here, but it can't see anything, and the only stuff it can hit are these beat up infantry, because that's what happens when your unit count gets really, really low. All these beat up infantry are just being a smokescreen, and if they attack anything, well, my artillery are finally in position. Things will get really, really painful from there. So, and we're just retreating everything back here. We're just like, I want absolutely no part of this. You take this as fast as you can because I'm taking this. And as long as we're trading evenly, I mean, trading evenly is like way better than I've gotten this whole game. So very happy about that. We'll probably lose this stuff, and that's okay. It delayed this a turn, and it'll tell me some information. But like this is developing slow enough that it no longer matters. I'm winning the race, and my opponent now has no good options on this front, despite having just like, 40k or whatever of units here. It's 40k of units that can accomplish absolutely nothing. It's the most expensive 4 HP infantry cleaners that you've ever seen. So recon dies, no surprise there. Other infantry dies, no surprise there. But the nice thing is that this tank had to go on the city, so this is going to save this for another turn, so not the worst. Another medium tank over here, but what has changed? I lost a 7 HP tank and an infantry. And now it's going to get crazy. First of all, we're starting to flip more properties. I believe at this point, at like 19k, I think we have equalized. It's equal or close. So we've come all the way back in income. And this turn is going to be an absolute bloodbath. Unleash the artillery. Medium tank dies. Artillery dies. Other medium tank takes a shot too. And I can do all this. I don't even have to block rock. And now this 4 HP infantry, block in the choke. Forest, covering my tank. What can these do? They can't see anything. Doesn't matter. You've got you know, expensive units. They can't fight. No vision. Losing that recon. Catastrophic. And now all I'm doing is I'm just setting up. Now the only thing that matters is not letting this base die. The only thing we care about. As long as this base does not get cleared by our opponent block rocking, we are fine. And even it doesn't matter, like, if the unit on here takes a lot of damage, it doesn't matter. We need to be able to, like, clear a path so that whatever's on this factory can get off the factory so they can build something else there. As long as we do that, we are going to be winning somehow after all this. So we're like really far backed up here. I don't think our opponent has any vision really. And this medium tank is not really there to fight. It's just, we kind of know exactly what our opponent has here because there have been medium tanks chaining from this base every single turn. And so that means that there's only been infantry built from these bases as well. And so we know that there's like 2 tanks, and artillery, and a recon, basically. And 2 tanks, and artillery, and a recon cannot clear a medium tank off of a base, even with block rock. So true rags to riches story. So medium tank retreats there, and then end up losing a recon, but it's, you know, whatever. Now there's a tank here, but this doesn't really matter that much. And now finally, this is the value of having these artillery. Jake is really good on this map, especially the extra artillery range is really important on this map when it comes to like dislodging really defensive positions like this. And sometimes actually Jake's CO power is actually pretty underrated in this map compared to other situations where it's almost never a good idea. Nonetheless, in this situation, we are still going to be doing the block rock. But I definitely calculated and considered potentially doing a CO power. But you'll see why we need the block rock instead of the CO power. This clears off that's a guarantee to clear off the medium tank, so that medium tank just kind of died for free. We capture this right in the face of the medium tank. It's funny. And then the block rock allows us to clear this infantry in 1 hit. And then it also, oh, sorry, jump back. All right. Stepping back to last turn. On this side, we know that there is 2 tanks, an artillery, and a recon. I have a medium tank. The only thing that I care about is where's the artillery. Because the artillery is... All right. I think it's likely in this forest. If my opponent is really clever, it's going to be here. And anywhere else, I don't know. Like, if it's here, then we don't care at all. But basically, if I do it like this, I can clear off this infantry, and then this medium tank can actually kill this infantry, even if it's on the city. And then the medium tank will be here. So if the artillery is in this forest, then the artillery doesn't hit the medium tank. And as long as the artillery doesn't hit my medium tank, I don't really care what happens. So I can actually just kind of afford to go in here and not care. And then I see the artillery is here, which is not one of the acceptable places to have the artillery. And so now the artillery is dead, so no longer matters that the medium tank, nothing can contest this medium tanks. Now this front's cooked and this front's cooked, by the way. So My, how things can change. And then we also block this, and we don't actually need to attack the tank because we don't actually want any chip damage. If my opponent wants to get this tank out, he has to use both the medium tank and the infantry. I actually thought about pulling this guy around to here to get the bonus to bring him back down to 1, but I thought it was possible there could be an infantry here in the fog, so I was a coward and just went for that. So I think this actually makes it a roll where, like, even if my opponent block rocks, medium tank plus 4 HP infantry is like, I don't know what it is. It's like maybe 50 to 60% to take out that tank. But if you fail the roll, then this base just dies. And we've got artillery staring it in the face, like just right up in there. But regardless, this game is totally cooked now. I can just put the artillery here and be like, yeah, that's what's up. Counter block rock comes out. Nothing happens to the artillery. Or nothing happens to the medium tank. Like it's popped, and that's the end of the game. Whoa! This game, holy crap, man. All right, well, that was a true rags to riches story. Round 1 of the Smacky Cup 6. This game was an absolute crisis until the very end, until it suddenly wasn't. I thought, very, very many people would have won this game against me after the way the opening played out. I definitely didn't play it out as well as I could have, but I really only feel like I made kind of one moderate mistake, and then the rest was mostly RPS bad. But boy, did that RPS going bad put me in an insane hole. Holy smokes. And I just had to gut through what just felt like a totally lost game for the first 10 turns until the artillery turn happened. So let's flip the vision on and let's take another look. It's going to be pretty brutal. So let's look at the deploys here. So just opening up 4 infantry, five infantry from this weak side base. Like this is day 4 recon strong side into day 5 recon weak side is just the way it worked out is just my soul has been owned. It's just like this is what you would do if you just were playing standard and you saw this. I don't think there's any optimization. It's fully optimal for what my opponent did, like against what I ended up doing. Absolute horror show opener for me, and already I'm down 2k this turn. I'm kind of jumping ahead, so it kind of equalizes now by day 8. This guy is just going to be chaining into this, and then all these extra infantry is it's like it's so greedy. It could have been even worse. Like I could have been losing this city pretty easily. This is kind of crazy that this infantry ends up going here instead of for the comm tower. I mean, in terms of economy, it's actually insane because it ends up being really good. But like, you gotta get your comm tower, man. He does get it eventually, but it honestly it didn't end up hurting him that much. But like, look, yeah, day 9 down 4k, 5k, 7k. Right, it turned to 6k, 6k, finally like back down to 2k. But like, if you don't get from that 6k point to the 2k point in like the next turn or two after this, it's so cooked. It is brutal. But what can you say? It's just this turn. There's unfortunately everything about this turn was wrong. This is way too passive. You need to be aggressively pushing your infantry in here. Aggressively. This is way... Like... Honestly... I would do that. I would skip that. Like, it's... that is what you need to be doing. Like, you don't... Who cares about this cap? You flip mine. Like, I've got no infantry left. And then this infantry... Like, why is this infantry going down here? Send everything this way. It's okay. You don't capture this stuff. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Like, you have to force me into this impossible situation because you got so much money. Where you have to force me to have, like, vehicles here, and then I'm not strong enough to push in here. And then you can... You pull all this stuff back here. Sure, you lose this stuff. Keep your vision alive. Medium tank this turn. And then you stabilize this area. And then when all is said and done, like, you're still up like 15 to 20k in army value because you've had this insane income lead the whole time. And it's still very, very playable. But yeah, for sure, like, with the way I played day 10, if this was a medium tank, this game it's just unsalvageable. Medium tank comes in here, kills this. This tank plus, like, in recon, kill my recon. It's just done. There's no way I can ever salvage that situation. Like, this recon will give vision forever. You're probably preventing these cities from flipping. So, like, there was an opportunity there, and it was a 19k turn, so the money was there, but it just wasn't quite played right. It would have been super sick because, like, the bait of putting the tank on there, and you put a medium in here to punish going to clear the tank would have been really good. Whew. All right. I think that wraps it. Final thoughts on this map. I hate it. I do appreciate this map. I do appreciate it. I think Spidey. I don't know. Wait, not Spidey. I'm wrong. Pause. Dr. Nasty. All right. I knew there was a Y on the end there. I just got the rest of the word wrong. Dr. Nasty's put, like, a lot of work into this map. I've helped playtest this map. I think there's a lot of good thought has gone into this map, and I really respect that. And like the concept is, like, the high level concept of, like, the base dies and then you flip the HQ is really, really sound. And it is well executed at a high level. But this is, in my opinion, this is not a fog map. This is a standard with slightly different game mechanics. And the reason for it is fundamentally because when you have an interaction between kind of one turn tank reinforce and then anytime one turn reinforce becomes like a primary fighting front, you, especially with the way the income curves work on this map, it's the effect of the blind decisions that you have to make on this map are you saw what two kind of unfortunate sequences, what kind of deficit that created for me in this game. And we're in round one, so a lot of the experience gaps between the players is wider in this round than it is in any of the other rounds. But I think it was worth doing. I think it was worth doing. I think it was good to see this in round one. I think the concept of, like, having a base that gets killed is good concept, and I would like to see it in the future executed maybe a little bit differently. But I just think the fundamental problem is like the engagements happen too quickly. This map, and it just kills. There's like, you need that magical 3 tank reinforce range. It is so critical to having successful fog map design, because having things slow down kind of massages out the effect of the rock paper scissors to some degree, because any sort of like major income swings or things like that, it just takes a little bit for that advantage to be accumulated and actually exploitable through like an improved army, because it just takes longer for stuff to get to the front. But as soon as you have a map where you're building units from a base and then the next turn they're fighting, if you ever get 4 to 5k ahead in income, it's often just insurmountable, and that level of income discrepancy can happen purely based on the RPS by itself. And so I think it's good learning experience. But this map is, this map has been it's so complex. There's so many like knowledge checks involved in this map that I still think like overall, very few people are going to be are going to feel like they were hard done by the result, because when games are this sloppy, oftentimes there's just there's a lot of things to look back to and say, oh, I should have done this better, and so that's why I lost, beyond just kind of the blind decisions you make at the start of the game. So anyway, that's gonna do it for this one. I can't believe my voice held out for the rest of this video. I was struggling, but I feel like I kind of pulled through a little bit, although I say that as I would pause to cough here. I know it's been pretty long gap in videos, but do have the Quack Cup 6, the bracket final match is underway. So I'm looking forward to being able to do a video on that when it completes, although my opponent is literally using up every final ounce of their timer, which is kind of obnoxious, but it is what it is. I can't control that. So we'll cover that one when it's done, but it's gonna be a fun one to cover based on what has happened so far. So maybe the opposite of what happened in this game. And it's just look forward to it. Hopefully I don't blow it. Yeah, I think other than that, it's on a personal note, it's been a very difficult month for me and our family, just in terms of physical health. I've been really up against it, to be perfectly honest. Had a lot of physical challenges going on in my life, so keep me in your thoughts and prayers if you're so inclined. I do really appreciate everybody who sends messages saying like, please make more videos, or appreciate your videos. Like it means the world to me that you guys enjoy these, and that you guys are able to learn from these, or just enjoy seeing like fun strategy game action. So I really do appreciate that. But yeah, I will keep doing these as long as I'm able, as long as I'm enjoying them, until somebody beats me. Come on, guys! Like, what are we doing here? I've been teaching you for 2 years, and I'm waiting. That's gonna do it for me. Thanks everybody. I'll see you next time.